that puts us in a position where value is being delayed through, not through the team operating in a bad way per se, but because they're operating in a way in which they think is right. And that's a drift in alignment of their activities. So rather than everyone working on a single feature at the same time, we end up in a position where the data scientists are building their models, or they're working on their models, and they're saying they're not quite ready for integration yet. So the engineers are just doing their thing and getting as far as they can while they wait for the model to be delivered. And this can often be traced back to non-user centered stories. That is, stories that don't say something along the lines of, as a facial recognition system, I want to recognize a person's face 70% of the time, and actually having stories that are more technical based in nature or more data science based in nature. And when we're dealing with quite high-end technical cutting edge systems such as these, it's actually very, very easy to end up in that position. And through that, we end up building those silos, and we end up in a kind of a waterfall position. So very, very quickly, we end up in a position where someone says, hey, let's set up some fake data. Let's set up a system where we are able to continue our app development, continue our model development, but have a layer of fake data in between, which allows those two to operate in a desynchronized fashion, and everything kind of goes back to a more sprinty, scrummy kind of way. But we've got this fake data layer to bridge the gap where one of the two elements isn't ready for delivery, but the other is ready to receive. Now, we have to be super, super careful about that. Being in that situation. And the reason we have to be careful of it is fake data is by its nature fake. When we operate in a software engineering scenario, fake data isn't necessarily going to cause us a problem as long as it's of the right sort and the right type. When we're in a data science environment, fake data can actually kill us. I remember a project I worked on a while back, which was to recognize the activities that people are conducting in a given industrial site. So not with members of the public, but in a closed environment where we're only dealing with employees. And we had a series of cameras that were set up to be able to recognize the comings and goings of the members of staff. And we were, on the one hand, working to understand what they were doing to ensure they weren't working in an unsafe way. And on the other hand, we're also using facial recognition as part of a security measure to ensure that only authorized people were operating in a given area on an industrial site. Makes a lot of sense. So the data scientists early on found they couldn't get access to the live data because, again, of that security system. It was a closed circuit system where there were no outside links. So instead, they set up cameras on their desk, and they started using their own faces, looking at the cameras to see if the system could recognize them. And they were getting a very high level of accuracy and were very, very happy. The thing is, that was effectively fake data. It was not the real data. We were bridging that lack of data to allow the system to be up and running much, much faster. When we got into the real world, we found that the cameras were 15 feet up on a 45-degree down angle. And not only on a 45-degree down angle, all of the people had their heads facing on a 180-degree, 0-degree plane. And that meant the camera was looking at the top of the head rather than the front of the face. And suddenly the whole system failed. We actually weren't able to recognize anyone at all, and we needed to completely rebuild the models and completely retrain them using a slightly different angle on the face. Not only that, because the industrial unit was outside, we also had to contend with different lighting levels. We had to contend with different environmental systems as well. So rain, cloud, bright sunshine, low sunshine, snow, and so on. And that meant that we were in a situation where a model that had been developed and was essentially working in our office environment suddenly wasn't working when we went into a live environment, and it wasn't working because of fake data. So if you are ever going to use fake data, if you are ever going to use these systems to try and enhance the speed with which you can develop, be aware of the quality of your data. More recently, I've been working on a system where we did need to use fake data for almost exactly the same reason. So instead, we got an extract of live data that was 6 months old. And we went out our way to make sure that we had that data and that we could use it for training purposes and for the purposes of building the system such that it could move through our development much, much faster. But because the data was in effect real, it just wasn't current, then we were in a very good position. We could deliver effectively. But that awareness of the quality of the data and the impacts of fake data was critically important in terms of us being able to get on and to be able to develop a system that was effective. So that's everything I particularly wanted to say about working with established data science in an agile way. But just to summarize it, very often they are bought in and they are pre-chained. They are designed to solve common problems. They require a database to gather the data, make sure it's in the right form and format, and it can be introduced into the data science model. Scrum works without any significant degree of change. Be aware of fake data, and that between fake data and Scrum, we can end up in a Wagile siloed situation relatively quickly. And above all, set those accuracy targets so you know when your model is reaching a performance stage.